Hello, it's me again, walking the dog and a little extra plastic cone today, which made me philosophical, because I can imagine that having such a cone on your ears for an animal that relies on hearing so much and smell, it just changes the airflow, changes sounds. It must be very disorienting, and this is what I see. Also, the reason she has it is because she has literally a pain in the ass. She was stung on the ass or the hind leg by a bee, I think. We think so. She got very neurotic about biting that, scratching that, and she destroyed the skin and it got infected and it got worse. And then the neurotic behavior got worse, and now she's on antibiotics. And basically, she has to just not bite anymore. Baby. And kind of got me thinking about what happened to me, because basically the same thing happened to me. All my senses, at least seemed, because I had a stroke in the cerebellum, it seemed like all my senses were working in a different way. Balance, hearing, vision, everything was working in a different way. There was still input, but it was alien. And took about 3 years before my nervous system now is declaring that this is just a new normal. Some paths were destroyed, then new paths were formed, so things healed, but it's all different. I see differently now, I hear differently now. Basically, I am different. But there's the same base pattern going on, expecting something else. So that was the past 3 years. The whole world was still kind of alien and foreign and looked very, very different than I ever thought. Which was weird. But now even weirder, my brain is now insisting that this is normal. And I still remember that it's not. So I can really empathize with her just going along with it and saying, okay, I will get used to it. And this is like 3 days in, she's already able to navigate without being scared when something hits her cone. So neuroplasticity, I think it's called. The adaptiveness of a neural net is wild. I know they did this experiment, I think, with NASA, where they had a set of prime glasses that turned the world upside down. And they gave those to astronauts, I think, in training people. And the results were that people couldn't navigate with things upside down all of a sudden. And after 2 weeks, the system had adapted. It was just their normal way of things being. Of course, we know this because the image that we see is upside down for all intents and purposes. And we don't see it that way. So actually the primes corrected that, and the brain got confused for a while, adapted, and went on. And then when you take off the glasses, there's the initial confusion again, but it's way more short-lived because there's these old patterns that the brain can rely on. It just tests and says, okay, this makes sense, this is logically consistent, this is probably the truth. And this tells you what truth is. Ooh, now we get really deep. Truth is nothing but a truthy feel. The minimization of prediction error. I think it's gonna be like this. Oh, turns out I feel it that way. That's true. Which is why stage magic, can happen, because you can manipulate what people expect, then show them that, or appear to show them that, and then they will conclude, well, something impossible just happened. It's the only explanation. Must be true. And then they know it's not true. They know it's magic. So they just stopped questioning it at some point. Said, well, it's just a trick. And this is just a way of the brain to solve the cognitive dissonance. Beautiful word. If you are forced to hold two opposing ideas about what's true in the world in your head, you have cognitive dissonance, which is a high energy state for the brain where there's very little security. So fear is triggered. The whole system becomes a bit anxious. So it's also an emotional state. And the brain wants to dissolve this, wants to have one truth. So if you think something's true, that just means you're in a low energetic state where your brain is pretty efficient. If you're unsure, that doesn't mean that it's unsure what is true, because if you look at it, truth is just a state of the brain, not a state of the outside world. Ooh. And now I need to stare off into middle distance and say it like it's a philosophy thing, but yeah, this became quite abundantly apparent to me when I was doing this, but with a brain that wasn't functioning. That's all I wanted to say.